Remember that, I think it was Black Friday a few years back, when that, I can't remember which online retailer it was, but like their whole site crashed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, total meltdown.
Mm-hmm.
Turned out their database, well, let's just say it couldn't quite handle the stampede of shoppers.
Mm-hmm.
So today we're diving into something that's changing the game for these kind of make or break moments for companies, you know what I mean? Running PostgreSQL on Kubernetes.
Yeah.
And I know, it sounds kind of intimidating, maybe even a little bit, I don't know, niche,
Right.
but trust me on this one, this is a deep dive you don't want to miss.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how this whole approach is like reshaping how we think about database infrastructure, you know. It's kind of like if you can imagine going from like a one-lane road to a multi-lane highway,
Okay.
just gives you so much more, ability to scale those resources up, down exactly when you need them.
So what you're saying is no more website crashes on the busiest shopping day of the year. Sign me up. But in all seriousness, that's just one of the perks we're going to unpack today. You ready to dive in?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's start with the why. What makes running PostgreSQL on Kubernetes like so appealing in the first place?
I think the shortest answer is flexibility, scalability, all that good stuff.
Okay, those are some big words. Can you break them down a little bit? What do those actually mean in practice?
Okay, so imagine you're building a house, right?
Right.
In the old days, you'd have to decide on a fixed foundation size right from the get-go. But Kubernetes, it's like having a foundation that, I don't know how, but it magically expands, contracts as your needs change. You need an extra room? No problem. Kubernetes, boom,
Yeah.
adjust the foundation. Like that.
So instead of being stuck with that tiny starter home when, let's face it, what you really need is that spacious mansion, Kubernetes is like, hey, you want to upgrade your database capacity? No problem. We gotcha.
Exactly. That's the beauty of it, the scalability. It's like having a, I don't know, super efficient construction crew on call 247 ready to adapt your infrastructure to handle, well, pretty much anything you throw at it, really. And we're not just talking about handling those like sudden surges in traffic, are we?
Right.
This goes beyond that, like this flexibility. It extends to different cloud providers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Portability is another like huge win. Think of it like this. You're not tied down to just one grocery store anymore.
Okay.
With Kubernetes, you can shop around, get the best deals, switch between different cloud providers like your AWS, Google Cloud, Azure, without any hassle of rebuilding your entire database infrastructure.
See, this is what I'm talking about. This is huge. Like, it's that freedom to choose, right? You pick the best ingredients for your recipe, no matter where they're sold. You're not stuck with what, just one store happens to have.
Precisely. And the best part is all this flexibility, all this scalability, it actually comes with a secret weapon, Kubernetes operators.
Okay, operators. We keep saying the word, but to be honest, I'm still not entirely sure what they actually do. Are we talking like real people, like a whole team managing everything behind the scenes? What's the deal here?
Not quite, although it can feel that way sometimes. Think of them more like highly skilled virtual assistants, but for your database.
Okay.
So it's like having a team of PostgreSQL experts working 24/7 behind the scenes, making sure everything runs, without a hitch, even while you're asleep.
Okay, so these operators, they're like those smart home devices, the ones that can adjust your thermostat and lights and all that, but for like managing these complex databases.
Exactly.
I think I can get behind that.
Yeah, except instead of lights, these operators handle, the critical stuff like automated failover, which basically makes sure your database stays online even if a server crashes, which, let's face it, happens.
Right.
They handle replication, which is like making copies of your data so you never lose anything important. It's pretty impressive.
Okay, so operators are like the key to unlocking the real potential of running PostgreSQL on Kubernetes.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling there's like a whole lot more to this. How do you actually implement this? What are the best practices? And what about security?
Oh, yeah. There are definitely some, like, essential do's and don'ts with this whole approach. And yeah, security, huge one. We'll definitely get to that because that deserves, like, its own conversation.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
Especially with something as crucial as a database. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's break down those do's, those must-knows for anyone even thinking about going down this path. What are the non-negotiables?
The golden rule, and seriously, write this down. Never, ever forget this. Use a PostgreSQL operator. I know we've touched on how much easier they make life, but seriously, trying to manage this without one, it's like, I don't know, trying to bake a cake without a recipe.
Okay, got it.
Messy, probably going to end in disaster.
All right, operators are non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Message received. So we've got our trusty operator by our side. Now what? What's next on the Kubernetes to-do list?
Data persistence. Remember those house foundations we were talking about?
Yeah.
So data persistence is like making sure your foundation is built on solid ground, not on like quicksand.
Okay, you've officially got my attention. Tell me more.
So Kubernetes, it's all about being dynamic, right? It's constantly creating and deleting containers to keep things running smoothly.
Yeah.
But for databases, we got to make sure that our data isn't accidentally like swept away in all that activity.
Yeah, databases are kind of like the family photo albums of the digital world, right? Can't just lose those precious memories. So how do we create that that solid ground for our PostgreSQL data in Kubernetes?
That's where those persistent volumes come in, PVs as they're sometimes called, and persistent volume claims, PVCs.
Okay.
Think of PVs like dedicated storage units, but just for your database, separate from the containers themselves.
So no matter what happens to those containers running the database, the data itself, it's safe and sound in its own little protected storage space.
Exactly. It's like a fireproof safe, but for your data, even if the house is, having a bit of a shakeup.
One less thing to worry about. What else should we be adding to our Kubernetes checklist here?
Stateful sets. These are like giving each of your PostgreSQL instances, it's like giving each one a unique ID card and a reserved parking spot.
Hold on. I need a minute to process that analogy.
Yeah.
Reserved parking for my database.
It's all about order and preventing utter chaos. Kubernetes, it usually deals with what we call stateless applications.
Okay.
Each instance, basically interchangeable, right? But databases are different. They need a specific order, a specific identity. Think of it like, those numbered tickets you get at like the deli counter.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Gotcha. So stateful sets, they just make sure every part of my PostgreSQL database, it has its assigned number, everything runs in the right sequence, no one's cutting in line.
Exactly. And even if one part of your database needs to be, restarted or something, it'll rejoin the queue in the right spot.
Seamlessly. Okay. Starting to see how all these do's, it's all about bringing that structure, that stability to this world of Kubernetes that's by design kind of, all over the place. This is making me feel a lot better about running a database in this kind of environment.
That's good to hear. But we're not done with the do's just yet. We've got to talk about backups.
Backups. Okay, you've got my attention again.
Yeah.
Everyone knows backups are, important, but be honest, they always end up at the bottom of the to-do list.
Yeah.
So what makes backups so crucial in the world of Kubernetes? And more importantly, how do we actually make sure we follow through this time?
That is the question, isn't it? And you're right. They often get neglected until it's too late. But with Kubernetes, we can actually automate this whole process. Like imagine setting a reminder on your phone, right? Except instead of reminding you to buy milk, Kubernetes is backing up your entire database on a regular schedule.
Okay, now we're talking. So no more excuses for skipping those backups.
Yeah.
But what kind of tools are we using to make this magic happen?
There are some fantastic tools out there, specifically for PostgreSQL backups, PG Backrest, Barmanon. These are just a couple. And combined with Kubernetes, it has this built-in scheduling capability. It can handle everything automatically, making sure that your data is always, always protected, even if, disaster strikes.
This is making me feel a lot better about this whole running a database in Kubernetes thing. Mm-hmm. Starting to sound shockingly, dare I say, manageable?
Yeah.
But I have a feeling there are some potential downsides we should probably, be prepared for as well.
You're absolutely right. There are definitely some challenges, some things to watch out for, and that, my friend, is where the don'ts come in.
Okay, lay it on me. What are the biggest things we need to watch out for when we're navigating the wild world of PostgreSQL on Kubernetes?
If I had to pick one overarching don't, it would be never, ever underestimate the importance of security.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, obviously running a database in any environment, there's security considerations.
Yeah.
But with Kubernetes, it feels like we're entering a whole new level. It's like we've gone from guarding a small cabin in the woods to securing a high-rise building in the middle of a busy city.
Exactly. The stakes are higher. The attack surface is potentially much, much larger. With Kubernetes, you're dealing with a distributed system, which basically means more entry points for the bad guys.
So how do we keep our PostgreSQL data, locked down Fort Knox style, within Kubernetes? What are the best practices here?
Okay, so there are several layers to think about. First, encryption. Encryption is your best friend, your best friend.
Okay.
Encrypting your data at rest, it basically means that even if someone manages to get their hands on your storage, they can't read anything without the decryption keys. It's like having a secret code that only you know.
Seems like a no-brainer. What else can we do to, fortify our Kubernetes fortress here?
Network policies, think of these like security guards, but posted at every entrance to your Kubernetes cluster.
Right.
They decide what gets in, what doesn't, who can talk to your database and how. Just makes it so much harder for anything unauthorized to slip through.
So like a really, really strict bouncer at a club, only those on the list get in.
Exactly. And of course, we can't forget about Kubernetes secrets.
Right.
These are like secure vaults for your most sensitive information, like passwords, connection strings, that kind of stuff. Instead of, hard coding these credentials directly into your application, which, by the way, don't do that. That's like Security 101.
Right.
You store them securely within Kubernetes, and it handles the rest.
So instead of hiding all your cash under the mattress,
Yeah.
you're putting it in a safe deposit box at the bank.
Precisely. And by layering these security measures, you create a much, much more robust fence against, well, pretty much any threat.
This is a lot to unpack. But it sounds like, with the right precautions in place, you can really mitigate those security risks of running PostgreSQL on Kubernetes. What other kind of pitfalls should we, as we're thinking about this, what other things should be on our radar?
One common mistake I see is overcomplicating deployments. Kubernetes has all these cool features, all these cool tools. It's easy to get kind of, caught up in all that.
Oh, I can totally see that happening. It's like going completely overboard with the toppings when you order a custom pizza.
Right.
Sometimes simpler is better.
100%. Sometimes adding all those extra features, those extra tools to your environment, it actually increases the risk of something going wrong.
Makes sense.
It's so important to stick to a clear, manageable architecture. Avoid over-engineering a solution that might look really cool on paper, but then in reality, it's a nightmare to actually maintain.
Simplicity is key.
All right.
What other don'ts should we keep in mind?
Okay, so this one might seem a little counterintuitive, but hear me out. Don't feel like you have to use Kubernetes for absolutely everything.
Okay.
Managed services, they still have a place, especially if you have limited resources or a smaller team.
So you're saying sometimes that added complexity of Kubernetes might not be worth the effort if we can get similar benefits from like a managed service. When would that be the case?
Yeah, exactly. If you're already using a managed service, you're happy with it, it's meeting your needs, the added complexity of Kubernetes might not be the best fit right now.
Right. It's a good reminder to really weigh those pros and cons carefully. Don't just jump on the Kubernetes train because it's the cool, new thing.
It's easy to get caught up in the hype, but sometimes the tried and true solutions are the best fit.
So we've weighed our options. We're ready to explore Kubernetes operators a little further. Where do we even begin? It seems like there's so many choices.
Yeah, you're not wrong. The Kubernetes ecosystem is, well, it's bursting with options.
Right.
But don't worry, we're going to break it all down, help you choose the one that's right for you.
So we're back, ready to go a little deeper into these Kubernetes operators. In my head, I'm picturing this crack team of engineers working around the clock.
Yeah.
But instead of actual people, it's lines of code keeping everything running smoothly, right?
Yeah, that's a pretty good way to visualize it. Think of it like having, I don't know, a dedicated team of PostgreSQL experts, but they're on call 24/7, no coffee breaks, no vacations, just algorithms working their magic, handling all those, those little details of running PostgreSQL in Kubernetes so you don't have to.
That sounds like a dream come true, honestly, for anyone who's ever had to wrangle with database management. So how do we choose the right operator for the job? It's not like a one-size-fits-all kind of thing, is it?
You're right, there's no best operator. It all depends. Depends on your needs, your technical know-how, even your budget. But let's throw out some of the popular options, give you a sense of what's out there.
Okay, let's do it.
So a good place to start, Cloud Native PG.
Mm-hmm. Cloud Native PG.
Yeah, this is like the Swiss Army knife of PostgreSQL operators, known for being, super versatile, really comprehensive.
What makes it so special? Why this one?
Well, for one, it's open source, meaning it's free to use, has a massive, and I mean massive, active community behind it. So you're talking tons of documentation, tutorials, online forums, you name it. Basically, you're never really on your own if you run into a problem.
And that community support, it's invaluable, especially when you're dealing with, Kubernetes, which can be a bit much sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. And Cloud Native PG doesn't just stop at the basics. We're talking automated backups, disaster recovery, fine-tuning your PostgreSQL configuration for performance. It's really like having a seasoned PostgreSQL admin on speed dial, guiding you every step of the way.
Okay, so it's robust, it's got your back, Any other operators we should have on our radar?
So if you're working with massive amounts of, let's say, time series data, StackRes might be the one for you. It's built on top of PostgreSQL, but it includes these really powerful extensions like Timescale DB. It's like giving your database, I don't know, like a turbo boost specifically for handling data that's constantly changing over time.
Time series data. Okay. What kind of applications would that be good for?
Think like monitoring system logs, tracking financial market data, even analyzing sensor readings from those, like Internet of Things devices, the IoT stuff everyone's talking about. Basically, anything where you have a ton of data points with timestamps, StackRes is built for that.
So if you've got data that's constantly changing, has that time element, StackRes is your new best friend.
Exactly. It's like having a dedicated historian, but for your data, keeps track of all the changes so you can actually make sense of it all.
Okay, this is all incredibly impressive, but I gotta say, Party still wonders, wouldn't it just be easier to let someone else handle all of this? Managed services exist for a reason, right?
You're telling me.
Like sometimes the appeal of set it and forget it is just too strong.
Oh, I hear you. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with going for the simplest option, especially if it frees up your team to, focus on other stuff.
So when would a managed service actually be the smarter move?
Well, if you're a smaller team, you don't have dedicated DevOps, you don't have a database admin just hanging around, managing your own Kubernetes cluster can get really complicated really fast. It might actually be more cost effective, not to mention less of a headache, to just go with a cloud provider like your AWS, Google Cloud, Azure. They've all got options.
It's like hiring a professional landscaping company instead of trying to maintain this like massive garden yourself. Sometimes you just got to hand it over to the experts, right?
100%. Managed services, they give you that peace of mind. You know your database is being taken care of, even if you don't have a whole team of, Kubernetes gurus on staff.
So to be clear, we've spent this whole time talking about running Postgres on Kubernetes, the advantages, all that. For those listening who are, still not sure, what are the deciding factors here? When does this approach really shine? When is it overkill? What are the make or break considerations?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It really boils down to this: flexibility, control, cost, expertise. You got to find that balance.
So we've explored this whole world of running PostgreSQL on Kubernetes, talked about the good, the bad, even met a few of those virtual database assistants along the way. But now the real question is this whole thing, is it right for you? That's what it comes down to, right?
It's decision time.
Yeah.
And like any good decision, you got to start by figuring out what's important, what are your priorities, what are your limitations.
Right.
So let's break it down.
Okay, let's do it. Let's see if this Kubernetes ship is ready to set sail.
All right. So first things first, flexibility, control. How important is it for you to have that really granular control over your whole database setup? Do you need to scale those resources up, down, constantly on demand? Thinking about switching cloud providers anytime soon, maybe going hybrid cloud?
So if the answer to those questions is a big fat yes, that's Kubernetes territory, right?
Pretty much. Kubernetes gives you that fine-grained control. You can customize everything to fit your exact needs, like a tailor-made suit.
I like the sound of that.
All
But
right.
but a custom-made suit, that comes with a price tag, right? And I'm not just talking about money here.
You're right. There are other costs. We're talking time, expertise, resources. Managing a Kubernetes cluster, even with those operators, it takes a certain level of, well, you got to know what you're doing. Do you have those skills in-house, or are we talking about, I don't know, hiring someone new, training up your existing team?
That's a good point. And even if we have the skills, there's the time commitment, right? It's like growing your own vegetables versus just, I don't know, picking up a salad from the store. Both work, but one takes a lot more, well, everything.
Exactly. Managing your own stuff always going to require more hands-on attention than just using a managed service, even with automation and all that.
Okay, so smaller team, limited resources, just
Yeah.
want to keep things, simple. A managed service might actually be the more, I don't know, the more realistic option, even if it means, giving up some of that flexibility, some of that control that we've been, gushing over.
It might be. Managed services, they're great at providing that streamlined, no hassle experience, especially for the common use cases. Think of it like a personal chef, takes care of everything. You just enjoy the food.
Right. So to wrap this whole thing up, Kubernetes, amazing for those who need it, but
Right.
not a magic bullet, right?
Yeah.
Before you jump in, got to really think about your needs, your resources, your tech skills, all that good stuff. Would you agree with that assessment?
100%. And one last thought, something to, chew on. Technology, it doesn't stand still. What seems intimidating today, what seems complex today, that might be like the standard 5 years from now.
That is a very good point. It's like those first people who had smartphones, everyone thought they were crazy, and now everyone and the grandma has one.
Exactly. So the key is, stay curious, keep learning, be open to new things. Because the best solution today might not be the best solution a year from now, 5 years from now. You just never know.
So it's all about finding that sweet spot, innovation, practicality, that balance, and that's going to look different for everyone. So as you're, on your journey, figuring out this whole data management world, ask the tough questions, weigh your options, and choose the path that, fits your goals, fits what you're trying to do.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Good luck out there.
And until next time, keep on diving deep, folks.